as a Korean woman. But 6 months later, he's decided he's had enough. Now he's transitioning back to being a British man. We thought we would ask
this in our schools in this country. Children are taught from a young age, from the age of 5 in some cases, that it's okay to change their gender. It's okay to, wear a skirt. It's okay for a boy to use a gender-neutral toilet. Why is this happening, And is it any wonder people like me fall victim to this, that I had all this surgery, I tried to change because, I kind of fell victim to this mentality. I'm an adult, but, these kids can't make these decisions on their own. They're being pushed this radical agenda.
I would ask you to please call off your dog.
I beg your pardon. I'm asking you as a mother, do not use female spaces.
And I'm very uncomfortable.
It makes women in class feel very uncomfortable.
As a mother,
you are not. How dare you?
As a mother, I am very.
You're not a mother. You'll never birth your children. You are not a mother, Dawn. You'll never birth your children. You are not a mother, Dawn.
They'll see it and they won't put up with it. They had a weightlifter where the record was for 11 or 12 years, and they'd put a half an ounce on each side, and the woman would lift. A guy comes along and breaks the record by numbers that you wouldn't.
The feeling of winning doesn't feel as good anymore because it feels tainted. There was a lot of things you couldn't talk about that were very concerning, like a locker room situation. If you even brought up concerns about it, you were transphobic. If you even bring up the fact that Leah swimming might not be fair, you were immediately shut down as being called a hateful person or transphobic.
But there's never any conversation. The coaches don't.
Made it pretty clear that if you speak up about it and you say anything negative, that your life will be over in some way. You'll be blasted all over the internet as a transphobe if you come out, and then you'll never be able to get a job. Anyone who wants to hire you will look you up and see you're transphobic and your life will be over.
I left academia because the climate had become too stifling politically, especially when it comes to the topic of gender identity and the science of gender. It is absolutely impossible to do good research. You basically have to decide beforehand what you're going to find so that you don't upset activists, and that is not how you do science. In the past, if any sex researcher spoke out about science that went against activist orthodoxy or particular narratives that activists wanted to promote, they would basically have their personal and professional reputations ruined. So what you see is that only experts who toe the party line and say the things that activists like, those are the people who get attention, those are the people who get lifted up in the media.
Have studies that said that medical transition helps mental health with kids. They've all been retracted, modified, changed.
It's perfectly normal for 10 years and up. Here's just one page I want you to see here.
For 10 and up, huh?
It's unspeakable what these people have done to our children.
I was about 15. I started using Tumblr. I had an eating disorder since I was pretty young. There was a lot of messages that said, if you feel bad about your body, that means you're trans. I was just going through this period of I don't like how I'm treated as a cis person. I don't want to be cis because cis means you're uncool and you're privileged and you're an oppressor and you're bad, and I don't want to be that. All this took 2 or 3 years of just going through this repetitive cycle of changing this identity and changing it again, and it was just never enough. There was a lot of hopelessness for a long time, a lot of regret. The feeling of regret was intense.
You felt what every young woman I've ever met felt at a certain age, which is uncomfortable with yourself. And it feels like you were exploited at that moment of weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said, it's completely normal for not only young girls, but often young boys too, to feel uncomfortable with themselves, uncomfortable with their body. But we have this ideology that is especially prevalent online that says that if you have those feelings, that means you're trans. I mean, there are literally people who say, if you don't even like your voice on a recording, that's a sign of gender dysphoria, and you need to go see a medical professional because you're trans.
Talk about taking advantage of people. So how do you, and this is all explained in greater depth in the documentary, but how do you feel now at 23 looking back on what happened?
I feel honestly grateful for the experience because it's taught me a lot about the world and about myself, but I really feel afraid for these other young girls like myself who they might not be. I consider myself lucky that I was able to get out of it unscarred really medically, but there's so many young people who can't say the same, and psychologically as well. I mean, it's just devastating to, especially from a young age, be lied to by adults at school and by medical professionals and told that your body is wrong, you need to change it, you need to get hormones, you need to get surgeries. That's devastating for a young person. So I'm just really concerned for younger girls and boys like I once was, being led down this path and being hurt by it.
We know that.
How can they be removing the healthy breasts of 15-year-old girls? How can they be sterilizing kids? How can this whole thing be happening, Matt?
I'm a biological woman that medically transitioned, had babies.
Can you tell me about the procedures that you had?
I've had 7 surgeries. I've had 1 stress heart attack. I've had a helicopter life ride with a pulmonary embolism. I've had 17 rounds of antibiotics. Nobody would help me, including the doctor that did this to me because I lost my insurance. I get infections every 3 to 4 months. I'm probably not going to live very long. We're butchering a generation of children because nobody's willing to talk about anything. I have 3 kids. At the age that they're doing this to kids. I'm not transphobic. I love my kids, and I love other people's kids, and you should too. This is wrong on so many levels.
I get a letter from BC Children's Hospital in December of 2018, and it says that under the BC Infants Act, they will start injecting my child with cross-sex hormones, and I have 2 weeks to respond with legal action if I so choose. And so that's how I ended up in court, because I did respond with legal action.
Is she on the hormone pills now?
She is. The court ordered that she could do whatever she wanted.
Welcome back. One final point before we go. First, we had transgender. Men who identify as women, women who identify as men. They claim, the opposite gender of their birth gender because they feel they are trapped inside the wrong body. As a society, we accepted this. Then we got transracial. Rachel Dolezal, the white woman who pretended to be black and even led a chapter of the NAACP until she was exposed and thrown out, she claimed she wasn't pretending to be black. She is black because she feels black. She's a black woman trapped in a white woman's body. She's transracial, she says. As a society, we accepted this for the most part, except some liberals who claimed transracial is a thing, but Rachel Dolezal doesn't qualify because she's an imposter and a liar, and imposters and liars aren't entitled to their feelings or their identity. There's more. After transgender and transracial, we got transabled. Yeah, this one's really messed up. Physically healthy people who feel they should have been born disabled. A man in Great Britain cut off his arm because he felt like an amputee. A woman in North Carolina poured drain cleaner in her eyes because she felt blind. Transgender, transracial, transabled. Guess what's next? A grown man posting an ad on Craigslist wanting a nanny because he identifies as a baby. You can't make this stuff up. Ridiculous? Perhaps, but who's to say anymore if that's how he feels? If a man can be a woman because he feels like one, if a white person can be a black person because she feels like one, if a healthy person can mutilate herself because she feels disabled, if a grown man can be a baby because he feels infantile, just something for liberals to think about before they push the boundaries of identity politics past the point of no return.
So now we are seeing kids that are identifying as animals going to school, and they are purring instead of answering questions, and they meow, and the teachers are not allowed to question it because it's considered a queer identity.
So you have kids that are going to school and they're saying, I'm a cat. Mm-hmm. And the teachers have to affirm them as a cat.
Yes. So it's
so
not
schools
just
are like literal zoos now, basically.
They are.
Biological woman that medically transitioned to appear like a male through synthetic hormones and surgery. I will never be a man. Is it transphobic for me to tell the truth? Why is it that a couple hundred years from now, if you dug up my body, they're going to go, yep, that was a woman, had babies.
في أبريل عام 1983 خضعت لجراحة تغيير الجنس. عشت كامرأة ل8 سنوات وعدت لحقيقتي كرجل منذ ربع قرن. لقد تعلمت الحقيقة. الهرمونات والجراحة قد تغير المظهر الخارجي، لكن لا شيء يغير الحقيقة الثابتة لجنسك.
It sounds like what you're saying is that if a man is male but thinks of himself as a woman, he's not actually a woman?
That's correct.
I was born a male. I started living as a female when I was 19 years old, had a sex change when I was 30 years old. I've now been living as a woman for 28 years and I fully regret this.
هذا ريني جاكس ألف عدة كتب منها لا تركب الطائرة، جراحة تغيير الجنس ستدمر حياتك.
Talking about gender in society, let me start with a real basic question. What is a woman? I don't want to assume, but you guys are all women?
We're all women. Yes, we're women.
So how would you define it, like in the simplest terms?
That is hard.
Yeah, it is. It is a stumper.
Defining womanhood is just a project of someone who identifies as a woman.
Yeah, but what do they identify? You see what I'm saying? What do they identify as? They identify as a woman, but what is that?
I honestly don't know.
Can a man become a woman?
No.
No?
No.
What about a transgender? Transgender?
No.
No?
It look like if you want to become a lady but you're a man, you have something wrong in your mind. Something wrong in your family, something wrong in you.
People are laughing. Is that a dumb question?
And the question is, does this man deliver?
Does he deliver babies? No, not as far as I know. Based on what I'm saying, would you ever want to move to America?
They say no, never.
It's clear that gender ideology is a uniquely Western phenomenon. So where did all this come from? Who came up with it? And why?